Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dislife Podcast. I am your host, Mark Valentine, Disney enthusiast, annual pass holder, and DVC member. And as always, we are honored that you're joining our show today and helping us live your best Disney life. If this is your first time joining the show, welcome home. And as a reminder, you can find all of our episodes over at www.disneyLifePodcast.com, as well as read one of our upcoming blogs, give us a rating, leave us a review, and then just interact with the show. We have a really great website where you can find all of our directories in one spot. Head over to www.disneyLifePodcast.com and you can access it all in one place. I have an incredible show for you today. It is an episode that when I tell you, just because of busy schedules and whatnot, I have been trying to get together with Piano Rob on this podcast for over 2 months at this point. And today we've finally, the stars have aligned, the planets are, everything is in motion, and we are welcoming Piano Rob to the Dislife Podcast. I'm so excited because I'm a huge fan of his. It's a delight to check out his Quarentunes, which he plays several nights a week for his fans and for individuals that, we were all locked in our house, and then Rob took a lot of what he does over at Jellyrolls. He took it virtual, and it has just been absolutely wonderful. So I wanted to talk to him about Quarentunes, but also just get into some of his music, some of his influences, and talk parks with him, because not only is he a cast member, he is like living his best Disney life. I follow him with great interest on Instagram. He has an amazing Instagram, very funny, hilarious, which is at piano_Rob on Instagram. So needless to say, I'm a fan, and I am so lucky. Rob, welcome to the Dislife Podcast. Thank you so much for joining the show. Let me say, it's an honor that you're here, and we're recording this live on StreamYard as well. We had a funny exchange before we came here online. Rob asked me, he says, "Hey, are we going to tape this?" And I said, "Yeah, let's tape it." So he said, "Okay, I got to get out of my pajamas," and I said, "You know what? I got to get presentable too, because I look like a wreck." So, two GQ guys. I feel like it's an interactive episode of Quarentunes right now. So awesome.
Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah. I'm a fan. I can't say enough. Before we really get into it, we were talking a little bit about this, and I said, "Hey, listen, we got to hit the record button because we're wasting all the good stuff here." But I have to say, it's just something that I want to start the show out and saying, how much Quarentunes means to a lot of us that tune in, the 2, 3, sometimes 4 times a week, and I understand, and we were talking a little bit about the philosophy, but these kind of things do mean a lot to people. Quarentunes means a lot to people to have music. I'm a singer. We could probably do an hour just the two of us talking about the role that music plays in the world at large. But that's something that you obviously get with what you do. For you to be able to share your music with us, especially right now when we're all locked in our homes for the most part, it really has been just amazing. For lack of better word. I mean, I'll wax poetic if you let me. I'm a talker. I'm a podcaster. But let's just leave it at, it's been amazing. Thank you for sharing your music with us. I know that a lot of this was also for you, but in the process, your self-healing and the way that you communicate has helped so much of us tremendously. So thank you for what you've done with Quarentunes. Thank you for continuing to share the music. It really means a lot. But tell us, so a lot of people too, Rob, don't know what I'm talking about. They don't know what Quarentunes are. So tell me about the show and how it started. Share that with us.
All right, well, first of all, thank you for all that. That was very nice. Thank you. March 16th was my last day at Jellyrolls. That's when they put the order in that bars were going to be closed the next day. So I worked March 16th, and then that was it. Sorry, St. Patrick's Day, no more work. So I jumped on Instagram and went live. Just for me, I just wanted to play some tunes, and I got a decent. I don't think it was much. It was probably like 15, 20 people that chimed in. And then I was like, all right, I did it again the next day. And I did it again the next day. And then I had people being like, I don't have an Instagram. Can you do it on Facebook? So then I started setting up 2 devices, one for Instagram, one for Facebook. And people kept showing up. It was kind of like, if you play it, they will come. And I just kept playing songs and hanging out. And then before you knew it, they're like, how many of these have you done? And I'm like, I don't know. And then because I hadn't missed a day. I did 70 days without a break. We took a break on that Blackout Tuesday for Black Lives Matter. That was the first break we took. Yep. And then I did another, but then we started counting around 60. It was 60 something shows. And I was like, how are we doing this for 60 days in a row? And we've continued. I've obviously taken days off since then because we've had some real gigs and just life things come up, but we're still doing at least a couple of shows a week. and people keep joining in. It's all requests. Sometimes we do theme nights, fun for me.
Yeah. It's I laugh because it's one of those things that if you don't laugh, sometimes you would cry.
Oh, you got
to
laugh.
It's so amazing how, I mean, in the podcast, we talked about this. This podcast started for me too. It was just, I didn't even know if there was going to be an audience. I just recorded an episode on the Logitech headset to make myself feel better about the Disney blues. And then, the first 2 episodes, I told you, it was like 20 people that tuned in, all family and friends. And then via this podcast, I met so many amazing people. And you said that's kind of the same experience that you had with Quarentunes. It's become a family.
I've met some great friends that they met each other. You never know who you're going to run into. It's amazing.
So what is, I know the answer to this, but I want to share it with the audience. What is the number one requested song that you get? Because I love it too. I love it.
Oh, on Quarentunes?
Yes.
Every night we have played DuckTales. It became like a joke. And yeah, I mean, people have sent me ducks now. Like, it's just, DuckTales has become the joke. Every day we play DuckTales. And I usually close the show with Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow.
Yeah.
DuckTales is the hit. We even, a company even made a shirt based on it.
I saw that. I love the shirt, but it's Drunk Tales, the t-shirt.
Drunk Tales. Drunk
Tales is the t-shirt, which is hysterical. So the first, and I'll admit this. So the first night that I walked into Quarentunes, I kind of felt like I felt very at home, and at the same point walking in, I felt like I had missed out on a lot of the running gags, because when you started to play DuckTales for the first time, the room erupted with like emojis, so that my comment feed started to get spammed with duck emojis and like all these like different things. And I'm like, this is clearly the fan favorite. And since, like, people go nuts for DuckTales.
They have the emoji as like one of their like favorites in the front now, like, because they've used it so many times. That's one of all these people.
So I love that, and I love the drinking game built around Roxanne.
That I've done since high school.
So what's that? Where does that come from?
That comes from high school. A high school friend. He was older than me. It was all band kids, so we were all mixed in mixed ages. So some of the older kids are like, you ever play the drinking game to Roxanne? I mean, I'm going back to the 90s here, so which makes me sound old to say back to the 90s. But that's what you would do. You would drink when you would have a Roxanne team and a red light team. And then when I got into the piano bar world, I carried the game a little into it. And then at Jellyrolls, we don't really do it that much because it's more Disney oriented. I started working it in though more and more. But I did it one night when somebody requested Roxanne, and that became a fan favorite. So now I'm picturing all these people getting plastered in their living rooms during quarantine. This leaves me with the great joke at the end of the song, which I hope this is your only encounter with the police tonight.
Yeah.
And it's
I'm checking. So I'm on Instagram the other night when you were live in the boathouse. And the funny thing with your Instagram feed is obviously you're sharing little clips from the performance of the boathouse, but then people that were tagging you and on your page and then posting it essentially to your story from Roxanne of playing the game, Team Red Light and Team Roxanne, people are drinking. I'm like, this is amazing.
It's like Team Edward, Team Jacob. It's like a really big deal. It's like
it's transcended. But that's what makes and that's what I love about Quarentunes. I love it. It's a good time. It is a virtual Jellyrolls right in your living room. People drop you requests that people I love that people are sitting in their living room. They're partying along. They have cocktails. They're laughing with you. It's like a low key comedy hour because you're really funny. Like, you're really, really funny. The Instagram is really, really funny, and sometimes it's just your humor, and you're not intending to be slapstick, but it's just like you have my sense of humor, and that's what I love about Quarentunes. So if you have not had a chance to check out Quarentunes, again at piano_Rob on Instagram, and then on Facebook as well, whatever your medium of choice, it's just a really good time. We've shared it a few times to the page, and people have tuned in, but like 2 or 3 times a week, it's just a really, really fun way to unwind at the end of a day. Like, much like the podcast was for me, it's just a great way to unwind and kick your feet up, listen to some music, hear your favorites played. And that's the cool thing is Rob will, even if you don't know it all that well, you're incredible, dude. Like, how do you remember all of these chord progressions and all these lyrics? Like, it's amazing.
Whenever anybody asks me, I tell them, and it's really the truth. It's just, first of all, music is a language. Learning the music is like learning a language. So once you learn to speak the language, it's easier and easier to move forward and learn new things. But a lot of it's just it's one song at a time. I've been doing this type of work since the end of 2005 now.
Wow. So
it's 15. In fact, December 12th will be 15 years of me actually being on a stage that I got paid. It'll be the 15-year anniversary.
That's amazing.
It's just one song at a time. The lyrics are generally harder than the music, unless it's like a Bohemian Rhapsody type song that's just crazy to learn.
So DuckTales is probably the most requested song. What's your favorite song to play, whether it's Quarentunes or Jellyrolls? So if you had to pick a quintessential Piano Rob song, and you said, if I had one song left to play on Earth.
Yeah.
My final performance.
I know what it is. I have my favorite song has not changed ever. I love New York State of Mind by Billy Joel. It's been one of my favorite songs always. There's something about that piano intro, that the way he moves the chords around in that song it's unbelievable musically to me.
Amazing.
And I wrote that song in less than an hour.
And Billy Joel is your favorite artist, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I mean, being from New York, I always connected with that music. I remember being a kid and I would hear a song on the radio and thinking I would like that song, and then come to find out it was like another Billy Joel song. Oh, Moving Out, that was Billy Joel. Oh, Honesty, it kept being the same guy.
In high school, I was like a lot of people. I wasn't classically trained as a singer. I just loved music. Music was like central to our house. I would sing in the shower. I would sing in the car with my headset on. It was really just my mom and whatnot. So in high school, I was a really shy kid. I did not have a whole lot of friends. And I met a crew of people, and they literally walked me into the chorus room. This is 9th grade. This is freshman year. I'd never been in a choir, never been in a chorus. I literally just walked around the house singing. And they brought me to the choir room, and it was Gordon Pauling was the high school choral director, said to me, "Can you sing scales?" And I'm like, what is that? I've never sang scales. And he just sat at the piano and he was like, "Can you match?" He wanted to see, can I match pitch? Yeah. Whenever you get it, it's like, okay, it's Russian roulette. Let's see what this guy can do. So he just pulls in, and I start singing pitches. And he's like, "How long have you been singing?" I'm like, "I don't know, just shower." And he's like, "Wow." He's like, "You can sing." And I remember he said to me, maybe you'll try out for districts. Like, you've got a good voice.
That's a big deal.
You could try out for districts. And so I went and I tried out for districts, and I made districts. And then you would go to the festivals. I don't know how it was. New York is very similar to Pennsylvania in that you would have districts, regions, and then all state choir. Okay. And then I remember I tried out then for the next level, and I made it. But for me, it wasn't about music at that point, Rob. It was about, like, I missed a week of school, and I got to stay at a host house, and you hung out with all these girls. And I was like, yeah, you meet all these new people. And then I remember I auditioned for states for the first time. I practiced my you-know-what off. Family friendly show. And I go in and I sing. It was like, I'll remember, I'm like 42 now, but I still remember. It was called the Liebeslieder Waltz. And I sang my heart out on it. It was an a cappella audition too. They just gave you a tempo and a starting note. And then you had no accompaniment. You just had to sing it. Awesome. And I walked out of the room, and all of the other tenors are there, and their eyes are wide open. And I'm like, "Oh my God, what happened?" I'm like, dude, that was amazing. And I remember Gordon found me at the end of the day, and he said, "Everyone's talking about you right now because they all know your story about the kid who sang in the shower." And they're like, "You just made all state choir." And I was like, I fell on the floor. I couldn't believe it.
That's amazing. So
I always laugh because in that moment, to connect this to what people said, "Who taught you to sing?" And I said, "Billy Joel." And it was the most visceral and honest answer. I said, "Billy Joel was my vocal coach growing up." And they're like, "Who taught you to sing?" And I was like, "The Stranger." That's all I would do is I would sing The Stranger along with my little CD player in my house ad nauseum, to the point of where my parents, it was like the drummer in the house. Your parents were like banging on stop playing the drum. My parents, stop singing. It's 10:30 at night. So Billy Joel was my vocal coach.
That's awesome, man. That's a great, can you imagine we had this technology back then to know that stuff? Because I'm like you, I never took a vocal lesson or anything.
Yeah.
I didn't do much singing growing up. It wasn't something that we did. So
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't trained vocally. Like, in all honesty, like, I didn't even realize that was something that you could do in schools. And it's like one of those things that until someone tells you, you don't realize that it's an option out there. And music, the biggest point is music has to come from one place. It's not something that's taught in as much as it's got to come from the heart. It has to come from the soul. And I think that's why music is so important to people, is because that's where it's born from, is where it connects with people. There's a lot of heady musicians and there's a lot of theory that goes into it. But there is nothing that beats a good old heartfelt Billy Joel song.
I agree with you 100%. 100% I agree with you.
So the growing up Billy Joel, I when I tell you, man, like, we're on the same wavelength, I lived it. I lived it.
That's great.
And that was the beginning and end of my music began with Billy Joel and Genesis. I have to give Phil Collins some credit there too, because Invisible Touch, going between Stranger and Invisible Touch for me was that was pretty much 1 and 1A.
I got to see Phil Collins last year. He was one of my bucket list guys. I hadn't seen him, so I finally got to see him. And thank God now with what happened this year.
I know. So speaking of, what's your favorite, like, going Disney for a second? And what's your favorite Disney soundtrack? I just got to know.
Oh, soundtrack as a whole or song? That makes it interesting.
As a whole. As a whole.
I think, I hope I don't regret this later, I think I'm going to have to say Lion King off the cuff. And say, actually, you know what? I'm going to go a weird one. I'm sorry. I'm going a weird one. Goofy Movie is my favorite soundtrack.
That's awesome.
Hands down, that is one of the most underrated animated Disney movies. The music in a Goofy Movie, start to finish, awesome. Every song is fantastic.
That's amazing, and it's a hot take, and that's what I love. See, Lion King, I don't hate it either. I'll be honest with you, I don't hate it. Not as much of a hot take as Goofy Movie. So
and normally I would go an Alan Menken soundtrack first, which he didn't do Lion King either. But that's got to be my favorite Disney composer. As far as that guy just pumps out the hits. But Goofy Movie, man, hidden gem right there.
I just did, I was a guest on The Wolf of Walt Disney with the Wookiee. And he asked me that question. He said, what's your favorite soundtrack? And The Little Mermaid, believe it or not, which is a weird thing to ask a male, especially. And like, it's not generally cited by most men. Like, they would probably say, like, Tarzan or The Lion King or Goofy Movie is a good choice for, like, a male. And I was like, yeah, princess movie, Little Mermaid. Yeah, Little Mermaid. When Ariel was singing in the grotto, like, it gave me the feels.
Have you ever listened to the work tapes of that? There's an old album, and I think it was called "The Men Behind the Music" or something, because it was like the man behind the myth was a Walt thing or something. There's the Men Behind the Music, it's something like that, and it's Howard Ashman and Alan Menken, and I think there's somebody else. And they're actually, you hear them writing the songs and coming with the lyrics, and there's stuff on just pianos, and there's demo versions. And it's amazing, because if it's written well, it's written well. I don't care if it's a female singer or what. It's a beautiful song. It's good.
Yeah. I love whenever I can gender bend a song too. I love me gender bending some music.
I'm 50-50 on it, because there's some things that, like, especially when I was at Jellyrolls and stuff, there's certain female songs that they're like, we got to make Rob do "I Will Always Love You" by Whitney Houston. And I'm like, well, do we really have to make Rob do that? Do we have to? But,
like, does it have to happen?
Sometimes it's fun. I mean, if there's a comical aspect to it, which I actually feel bad, because I think it's easier for a guy to do that. It's not always as comical for a female to do a male song, whereas the guys think, you do "Like a Virgin" by Madonna, and everybody's like, ha ha ha.
I got to hear that one. So that's amazing. So the Goofy Movie soundtrack, if you had to say a song,
I have a song too. It usually comes down to two, but since I'm a dad, "You'll Be in My Heart," Tarzan, that song, it gets me every time.
Have you listened to my old episode where I talk about that song? It's mine.
I have not.
It's mine.
That's yours. Well,
Isabella.
I'll fight you for it.
So we're adoptive parents. Parents, and we were there with Isabella. So the night that she was born, we were there. We waited in the waiting room, and we went in to go see her. My wife and I did not sleep the entire night, because the birth mother went into labor, and so we did not sleep that entire night. We drove to the hospital. We waited in the hospital until very late that night, and so they set up a room for us in the hospital. and they brought Isabella in. Linda had developed a migraine from sleep deprivation and just the sheer stress of the whole thing. So it was just me with her for maybe an hour and a half, and I was in the room like brand new dad. I was exhausted too, and she started to fuss, and I picked her up, and like you know the feeling, like the first time you hold your child for the first time, you're like, you don't want to break her. Like it's a gamut of emotions. I don't know why in that moment that song just came to me, and I started singing "You'll Be in My Heart" to her, and she settled. And then I started to cry and bawl because I'm like, I'm doing this. I'm a dad. I'm in it. So whenever that song comes on, like, dude, it gets really misty. But my daughter, the first few times that she watched that movie, like, I'm over there crying. And she's like, "What's wrong, Dad?" And I'm like, nothing. I'm good. I'm fine.
I like it happily ever after when they get to that part of the fireworks. Mm-hmm. I get the same. I'll tell you what, though, the saddest day I've ever sang that song. We got to make it happy after this. The saddest day was the last Sunday at Jellyrolls was cast member night. Cast members gotten free. So all the cast members just found out they were getting furloughed or sent home. All the internationals, they ended the college program that Sunday, and I get that song requested towards the end of the night, like everybody's about to not see each other for God knows how long. And I had to sing. I couldn't even look at the crowd because I needed to hold it. Like I needed to hold it together to sing the song. That was bad. I felt so bad for everybody.
Bite my lip right now.
Yeah, I think that was whatever it must have been. So the 16th, I think, was the Tuesday, our last day, or a Monday. It had to be the 14th or 15th of March.
Oh, God, that's a good bunch.
Oh my it was
God, man, you just hit me with that. Oh,
yeah, well, that's it.
All right, so let's get
happy.
Let's get happy. So before I want you to play. I want you to play one or two things first. But so, like, what's a perfect park day for you? Because you, as a cast member and as essentially a pass holder, you get there all the time. What's your perfect day in parks?
And now what's funny is because people listening that don't live here, we don't go for full days a lot when you live here. It's just not. It's not because you don't have to. But in general, I mean. A perfect park day is low crowds, not long wait times, and not too warm of weather. If I have to pick, and I don't even care what park I go to anymore. Like Epcot I love Epcot. I feel like I end at Epcot the most because every festival they have is wonderful in its own way.
Yeah,
always. So I feel like that's where I end up, and I'm usually just eating a little, drinking a little, walking around, people watching. That's the best day.
Yeah. I feel like too, we have several of our friends are cast members and locals, and I always see them in Epcot, and I've asked them that same thing. I'm like, "You're always in Epcot," and they go, "Listen, when you're local, you don't do a lot. You've done it so many times, so for you, it's about like the vibe and the dining and just the atmosphere more so than anything else." And they said Epcot really affords us that. Like we walk around, there's tons of food options. It's just. Generally, it's more laid back than some of the other places.
Yeah, I went to Epcot last night. I didn't go on a single attraction.
Yeah.
We just walked around. I ended up talking. I'm sure everybody on your podcast will know it. If they don't, they should. The wonderful Carol Stein plays in the pavilion there between UK and Canada.
Yeah, we love that.
And she ended up talking to us for her whole break. She came. I adore her. I used to see her when I felt like a kid in the Comedy Warehouse on Pleasure Island. She was still playing. So like we just sit there. I got myself a gingerbread vodka milkshake that they were serving in there. And it's just wonderful to be there. You just feel good being there.
Yeah, I love it in there. It's a cool atmosphere. We did it for food and wine. We did the mac and cheese. A bunch of us got the different mac and cheeses and we checked that out, but we just chilled out for a while. And they still have the tables, no seating. They have the tables set up so you can chill out and just enjoy the music. And for a while, and again, this was like right after, maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks after reopening, that was some of the only live music that you got at that point.
Yeah.
So, and I can't wait. I can't wait. I really like, and that's the thing too, is like we as fans and as guests, I cannot wait until the music comes back into the parks. This is coming from a ride person. Like I'm a ride person coming from Pennsylvania. I love me some rides and attractions, but there's something that just needs to be said. The parks are really missing the music right now. And
I've seen a lot of people say this. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
It makes it like a Six Flags when there's not that other stuff. If it's just rides, that's people don't they go for the rides, but there's so much more that encompasses what a Disney trip is. And like, if for people that come all the time, you're a ride junkie, you want to come down right now, do it. Like, it's great. The crowds are lower. But if you've been saving your life for this is your big trip, I would feel bad for people to come. They're missing out on so much now that they should, that I don't want to say should, but it was always there before.
Yeah. And Disney goes hand in hand with music. You know, Walt understood the importance of music more than a lot of these other creators. So like, you see all of his animated films, how instrumental the music is. And I realize it's a movie. I used to teach a class called History Through Media. Another time I'll talk to you about the class. But the class would basically say, like, history presented via Hollywood. But the film, starring Tom Hanks, where, saving Mr. Banks, and they're talking about the creation of Mary Poppins, and to see the music and the central line that music played in that story. I always like to take that and just think of that in the creation of everything that's Imagineered. And you see the Imagineers, whether they're on podcasts or in interviews, talk about creating these attractions and how central the soundtrack to that ride was. And I tell people, like, that's what's missing right now for me from Walt Disney World is the live music. It creates an atmosphere, it creates a magic in and of itself. So I can't wait. I need Jellyrolls back. I know we all of us in Quarentunes, we say it ad nauseum. We need the boardwalk back. We need Jellyrolls back. But I'm really happy that right now the Boathouse is rocking and rolling. And I just, with the crowds coming back, come on, Disney, let's do this. Let's do this.
I'm hoping we've heard nothing, and it seems like they're given a couple months notice before they fully open a resort. Like, they gave the All-Stars here like 4 or 5 months notice. They're opening in February. I don't know if they're going to do the same thing for us. I feel like a lot of work. Like, this was sad. I don't know if you saw my story on Instagram last night, but when I was passing, like, 2 letters are out in the dance hall sign. We got 1 letter out, the color, they have the big neon letters in the dueling piano sign for Jellyrolls. I'm like, this is weird that Disney isn't keeping up fixing those letters. It doesn't make me happy, so I don't know. I'm just kind of sitting here. I'm waiting, but I'm also like, I'm not waiting. I'm trying to keep myself busy just in case. Yeah. But hopefully it gets back somewhere next year here. Yeah,
we're all eagerly awaiting that at some point. All right, I asked you to play. I said, if you could give us some music. So this is a little different than some of the other podcasts that we've done so far. We've never had a musical guest on. I asked Rob in preparation of today. I said, hey, think of a few songs that you either want to play or love to share with the audience, and to put those on as part of the broadcast. And then, that's also why I spiffed myself up. I said, let's make it like a Quarentunes. But I'm just sitting here. But I'm gonna actually drop off of the feed, and I'm gonna turn it over to Rob. And go ahead, man. Like, you have my full permission. Turn it into Quarentunes for like a few minutes. And okay. I'm just gonna go back like I do in the background, and I'm gonna fan out. So, ladies and gentlemen, for the first time ever, Piano Rob here on Dislife Podcast. Welcome to Quarentunes live on Dislife Podcast.
I have often dreamed of a far-off place where heroes welcome, been waiting for me. The crowds will cheer when they see my face, and a voice that keeps saying, this is where I'm meant to be. I'll be there someday. Oh, I can go the distance, and I will find my way. If I can be strong, and I know every mile will be worth my while. When I go the distance, I'll be right where I belong. Down an unknown road to embrace my fate. Know that road may wander, lead me to you. But would be worth the wait. It might take a lifetime, but somehow I'll see it through, and I won't look back. No, I can go the distance, then I'll stay on track. No, I won't accept defeat. It's an uphill slope, but I won't lose hope till I go the distance and my journey is complete. So here's a song I wrote a very long time ago. People seem to really enjoy it during the lockdown here. And all this time we've spent together, we always hope that it lasts forever. Now we must go our separate ways and leave behind our carefree days. And wherever we end up, and wherever we may go, we'll always remember, and we will always know the friendships we made and the memories we shared will never die, they'll always be there. And although we'll move on with our lives, I know this won't be our last goodbye. I know this won't be our last goodbye. We've had some good times, we've had some bad, but I will miss all the times we've had. There's so much that we've been through. Without each other, what will we do? Wherever we end up, and wherever we may go, we'll always remember, and we will always know that the friendship we made and the memories we shared will never die, will always be there. And although we'll move on with our lives, I know this won't be our last goodbye. I know this won't be our last goodbye. I like that one. Mark, you can come in whenever, or I can play songs forever, because I'll sit here all day.
I know, yeah. Rob. Listen, you could play forever. I could talk forever. But I just a few things really. Again, one, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come. We're huge fans. We're fans of you. We're fans of Quarentunes. We're fans of Jellyrolls. And thank you for agreeing to do the show. It's an honor. I say this, and I said this to Bonnie as well. It's an honor to have you on the show with all of our guests. It's an honor to have you join me, and you really delight our audience. But thank you again from the bottom of my heart, how much Quarentunes has enriched our lives. And I know that I am not the only fan to say that. Thank you for sharing your music with us. Music has such an important place in my life and in my life story, but we need that music more than ever with everything going on in the world. We've already said, Disney, we miss your music. And I can't wait until it comes back. Ladies and gentlemen, check out Quarentunes on Instagram at @piano_Rob, over on Facebook. Check out some of his original music as well. He is Piano Rob, but he's also, like we said, he's just Rob. He's just the nicest guy. We love having you as a friend. Loved having you on the show. Dude, listen, this is when it's going to be amazing. I'm going to come down to Florida and I'm going to see you at Jellyrolls. I'm going to give you like a huge high five. And we're going to look back on this and say, hey, like,
we're all out to touch again.
We'll do the Air 5 and that'll be like the culmination. So we're hoping to come down in the winter. So I hope to say hi when I come down in person, and thanks for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, check out the show. Head over to Quarentunes. I'm telling you, you will not be disappointed. He takes requests. He plays a mean Billy Joel cover, but it's just a really great way to kind of enrich your life right now. And thank you, Rob.
Mark, thank you so much for having me. And honestly, we'll do this again sometime, whatever you want.
So anytime you want, like I'd love to have you back. Music, but I tell a lot of people too, I don't want you to get, nobody puts baby in a corner. No one puts Piano Rob in a corner. You can talk about whatever you want. You can come on and talk about anything. You're welcome to come back on the show anytime. So.
I'll do it, man. I've been waiting to talk about The Mandalorian with somebody for a while, but we're not going to do any spoilers here. Don't worry. That last episode got me.
So I know. So here's the other thing. I've seen your live icon click on right before the Wookiee and I go on Mondays. We do it. Come on the show. Come on Mandalorian Monday with us.
All right.
Come on live. We give it the full weekend so that we don't spoil it for people. But then we also, at the beginning of every Mandalorian Monday, we tell people, like, listen, we're talking about this last episode.
Don't listen to this if you didn't see it yet.
Yeah, get out. Like, thank you for coming. Leave us a thumbs up. Like, help us with the algorithm, but get out. Like, get out. But come on, come on the show. Come talk Star Wars with us on a Monday night at 8:30.
Yeah, man. All right, let's do that.
Come on, yeah, I love it. So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, the one, the only Piano Rob. Thank you so much, and thank you guys out there for joining us every single week and living your best Disney life with us. It has been a wonderful show. It's been an honor to sit down with Piano Rob. And check out all of our episodes at www.disneyLifepodcast.com. We release new audio episodes every single Wednesday. And join us on Facebook at Disney Life Podcast, over on Instagram. Get involved, have fun, interact with the show. And I hope that the rest of your week is filled with faith, trust, and pixie dust. We'll see you real soon.